So I have been very clear with you guys that I'm beginning to ponder all of these mass shootings that take place, whether these are actually military targets, politically guided targets, and hits that they eventually just blame on some kid who's drugged out of his mind, or a trans person, again, constantly engaging us in this left-right dialogue. Oh, well, the left says we need gun laws. We need to have stricter gun laws. And then the right says, no, it's a gun that saves lives, and we don't need that, and we need to have more guns. And nobody could be paying attention to the fact that these are just like a gang taking out people. I don't know. Left and right are always blaming each other. We refuse to consider the very real possibility that there is a criminal syndicate that controls both sides and feeds the narrative instantly to the newspapers and to their agents all throughout the media. You hit hard at the left, you hit hard at the right. Keep these people engaged at one another's throats. Well, anyway, in the past, I had mentioned to you on the topic of Erica and that shooting out in Aurora, that in particular, she wasn't the only one. A lot of people who were surrounding Charlie had some proximity, some personal story that they could share relating to a shooting of the past. Okay, so we already showed you Erica. She had a friend who was in the theater. Okay, Rob McCoy, he lost 2 congregants in the Thousand Oaks shooting at the Borderline Bar in 2018. And then he subsequently became the mayor and very close with the victim's family. And let's not forget, by the way, that what was happening at the bar that night, many people in the bar were there because they were having a reunion of some description because they had survived the largest mass shooting in American history, the one that the media swept under the rug very quickly. We got no details. The Vegas shooting of October of 2017. Apparently that had to do with the Middle East, actually. Israel, the Middle East, swept under the rug. No, lone shooter, Stephen Paddock. We'll never know the answers. But again, so Rob McCoy knows these, whatever. But there's another Rob McCoy adjacent one as well, and it involves Turning Point. Rob McCoy was the person who organized the Nashville Covenant School Memorial in 2023 because it just so happened that Turning Point was having a pastors' summit down the road when that happened, when the shooting happened. And again, that was a trans person, and then that trans person was immediately shot. Guest pastor summit, right place, wrong time. Okay. Well, guess what, guys? We can now add another Turning Point staff member, starting Turning Point employee who was in the midst of a shooting. This time, it was one that took place in Kirkwood, Missouri, back in 2008 at the City Hall. On February 7th, 2008, there was a man named Charles Thornton. He went by Cookie, and he went on a shooting rampage at a city council meeting in his hometown. Okay. And while shooting, he shouted, "Shoot the mayor, shoot the mayor." He killed 2 police officers, 3 city officials. He injured also a reporter, and he shot the mayor twice in the head. The mayor survived that day, but he died 7 months later due to complications from the injury. Again, interesting target, I would say, but this is a crazy man. Cookie was a crazy man who never stood trial because he died from 2 gunshot wounds in a shootout with police. Who was there? None other than Justin Strife, the current COO of Turning Point USA, who became the COO 7 days before Charlie was assassinated. I actually have heard from people that Erica pushed for Justin Strife, and I will say allegedly there because this is Turning Point employees that are saying that Erica was driving Charlie to give Justin Strife more power. Again, I cannot confirm that. That is a Turning Point employees. Everyone can say that until I have proof. It's just hearsay. But what we can confirm is that regarding that shooting in Missouri in 2008, he appears in a news clip and he speaks about Cookie. I don't know if he was working at the city council hall. He definitely sounds familiar with what's going on. I'm just going to let you listen to him in his own words. Take a listen.
Sirens wail outside Kirkwood City Hall in Missouri. The building that usually houses mundane civic meetings became the scene of a rampage Thursday night after a gunman stormed the building and opened fire. 2 police officers and 3 city officials were killed. The mayor was critically hurt, and a newspaper reporter was wounded.
Yeah, it's really shocking. When I heard about it, I was just like, oh my God.
The shooter was eventually shot and killed by police. It's reported he was Charles Cookie Thornton, who had a reputation for disrupting city meetings and for making outrageous statements.
I I've heard that this guy has come to the council meetings before and complained about tickets and fines that he's gotten from the city, and he's kind of made threats before.
I thought the police were racist in the town. You always heard him saying that he thought the police were running a plantation.
Police say the gunman shot one officer outside the building, then went inside and immediately shot another in the head. He then continued firing, taking aim at city council members. At one point, the city attorney tried to fight off the attacker by throwing chairs.
Everyone knows he's kind of crazy, and I mean, I don't think anyone ever thought it would get to this point.
Hours after the shootings, officers from neighboring cities and communities were still arriving to pay respects to the fallen officers.
Anytime an officer goes down, you're going to see officers show up from everywhere, regardless of boundaries or department guidelines. They're going to be here, and that's what you're seeing tonight.
The city of Kirkwood recently made national news after a pizza worker named Michael Devlin was arrested in the kidnapping of Sean Hornbeck and Ben Ownby.
This isn't the town that Kirkwood really is. A family-oriented, very quiet town. And so something like this, I mean, just is really going to throw this town into chaos.
I certainly did not know that he was involved in Kirkwood. Is he working at the city council?
Hi, everybody. Today is day 2043 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there in El Paso, Texas, on Fort Bliss. He was a whistleblower, and they forcibly removed him from his barracks room and took him down to the basement room, and they took his life. And this was a very planned killing, and they stole his body off of Fort Bliss, and they trafficked his body across the border, international border, into Mexico, and all evidence indicates that he was disposed of at Plenitude Crematorium, owned by Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Curan and her family. And evidence indicates his organs were also harvested, that his body also was they made money off of it. So, wow, Candace, it's going to take a couple days to really understand all the implications about what Candace Owens, it might take longer than that, for us very quickly, because she is corroborating everything that we have been going through, right? She is corroborating with the Charlie Kirk case, what we have been going through in our son's case. And, it is going, was even more today. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend that you watch her presentation. The 6th episode, watch all of them. This was the 6th installment. Yeah. Episode 6 of The Bride of Charlie and what happened in Romania. But I really wanted to focus on tonight. We wanted to focus on this part, the mass shooting, right? Because it really corroborates everything that we've been saying for the last 5 years, and what Julio Cordero was investigating. Okay, and that is the CIA playbook. The CIA playbook. I want to make it very simple for everyone to understand, because of the Iran-Contra. It happened a long time ago. Many people never heard of it, or don't remember it, or vaguely remember it. But it was absolutely a CIA operation out of El Paso. And the CIA was using trafficking, drug trafficking in this case, working with the Mexican cartel to make money, to then fund the Contras to engage in regime change. Okay, that's the playbook. Use trafficking to profit off of it, make money, to use that money and engage in regime change. That's the playbook. And the Mormon faction El Paso cartel, in alliance with the Mexican cartels, including the CJNG cartel, El Mencho's cartel, that was together made an alliance to for visas for access into the United States, for access into our intelligence databases, protection through the courts and through law enforcement, that they could operate perversely. And what do I mean perversely? Outside of the law, perversely. And together they were the protection racket for the Jeffrey Epstein, John of God, down in Brazil, the Brazilian John of God pipeline, which includes really, how can I say this? Significant individuals out of Chicago, right? That have come out of Chicago. And I'm talking about Obama. I'm talking about Oprah. I'm talking about William Sanders, the father-in-law of Beto O'Rourke. I'm talking about the Pritzkers, and many more, and using Santa Fe Lab, because, like I talked about yesterday, this Mormon faction, they have a very different belief in how the family works, because they're not Christian, okay? And I don't mean that as like I'm attacking them or anything. I just want to make everyone aware that they think differently. They believe differently. And so the whole formation of their family, they have multiple marriages, okay? The Harts, the prime suspects in our son's taking of our son's life, they have multiple wives, okay, the multiple partners, and they believe in children from all of that, and they don't. It's not because it's because they want exaltation, right? This is the belief, an exaltation. They want to be exalted to be a god, so that they could get a planet. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But this is what what is outlined in research, is that they believe if they're exalted to a certain height and they become God, then they will get their own planet, right? And and that also requires blood sacrifice. Okay. So it is very similar to Mohammedism, really. And so I laid that out yesterday. This is really important because that is, an external faith, whereas Christianity, with the creeds, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, the Athanasius Creed, the councils of the churches, we have an internal faith. It's not about, if we don't get married, that's not okay. Whatever. That doesn't take away from your eternal life, right? If you don't have children, it doesn't take away from your eternal life, the promises of eternal life from God. Are children a blessing from God? Yes. But that is not what sums us up, right? In the eyes of God to, you know, to have everlasting life, right? And we don't get a planet, okay? But what is the difference is, instead of an external faith, which is Mohammedanism is an external faith, you have to do the pillars. And then, of course, this Mormon faction is an external faith. And then with Christianity, it's internal. It's being a good person, telling, don't be deceptive. Don't be deceptive. Don't be a cheat. Um, don't betray your marriage vows. Uh, be a good parent. You have duties of parents to children, duties of children to parents, duties to the stranger. You know, everything is internal about a renewed spirit, right? And I don't want to go into that too much. The point that I'm trying to make is that it's very different. And so in order to understand what has been happening, you have to understand their external view of the world, of their, what their goals are. And so killing, right? Killing, um, if that is a way to do regime change, right? They will do it. The CIA playbook, from what we can, from the evidence that we have, has been adopted by this Mormon faction cartel, El Paso cartel, in alliance with the Mexican cartel, protecting the pipeline, the trafficking pipeline, because they traffic in order to make the money, in order to engage in regime change, in order to infiltrate, to get their candidates in, to tamper with elections. And if engaging in a regime change requires a false flag, a mass shooting, then that's okay. That's okay. And it's not okay when the laws of the land are based on the Christian faith. And from a Christian perspective, that's not okay. That's not okay. And so that's where you see this convergence, this disagreements coming from, okay? Because child trafficking, the eating of human flesh, the drug trafficking to hurt so many and even end lives. If that's a way to a means of engaging in regime change, they've adopted it. Okay. So, and this is what Candace Owens is really, she's not coming out and saying it like I am. Because, and I think she is, but with over 5 years and seeing what happened with Julio Cordero, because Julio Cordero is, like Richard, legendary. And our sources have confirmed to us that Julio Cordero absolutely was very moved in April of 2024 when Richard was declared deceased by the Board of Inquiry of the Army without his remains. Because he knew that a soldier, and in that finding that Richard was deceased, that happened on Fort Bliss, that his life was taken on a military installation with super high security. For Julio Cordero, the FBI agent that was legendary because he ran the Poisoned Ponds operation. And all of that investigation that he did to have the El Paso courthouse raided and to have over 40 officials arrested. And that, include Luther Jones, right? That included Briones, the Judge Briones. Lots of ISDs members. So for him, he knew that what happened to Richard, in order for Richard's life to be taken on a military base, a military installation with very high security measures, right? It had to be poisoned ponds. It had to be poisoned ponds, what he called poison ponds, like DES Thomas Kane. Because DES Thomas Kane was in charge of every gate, every camera. Without him, there could have not been the stealing of Richard's body, taking it off of Fort Bliss. And I don't believe that they would have even attempted to take Richard's life unless they had him in their pocket. He's a poison pawn. Of course, Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Wayne Hart, who was accused by his own mother in a notarized affidavit of committing the worst crimes against children, having films of child torture, and performing acts that are illegal with his father and brothers, and having illegal weapons. He is the prime suspect in our son's case. And it was his group. Now, this is very important. His group, this has been confirmed to us, that tampered with Julio Cordero's crime scene at Franklin High School in August of 2024, when Anthony Acuna, the SniperWolf, that's his alias. That's the alias he uses, is SniperWolf. And he's the El Paso ISD police officer, Anthony Acuna, SniperWolf, and the lifelong school buddy of James Montoya, okay, who, without a warning, shot out in the dark because he couldn't see, this is in his documents, and risked children there at the high school, risked their lives without notifying that he was about to shoot, which you'd have to do. Just shot out in the dark, he said, and hit Julio Cordero twice. And one of them was the fatal blow in his head. Now, when something like that happens, automatically when it is a police officer, an FBI agent, even retired, and I want to make this very clear, it was Dallas Hart's criminal group that tampered with that crime scene. And the grand jury said, nothing to see here. And, just getting some open records, you're like, what the heck? What the heck? Lots to see here. And if you're wondering why there's a cover up with this incident, it's because Julio Cordero revealed that he was very moved by the designation, the new designation for Richard, that he knew it was poison pawns, that he was investigating, and he had 2 philanthropists that were at large that had not been arrested in Poison Pawns 1.0. He wanted a 2.0. He was after those 2 El Paso businessmen, philanthropists that got away the first time because he absolutely was convinced that they were up to no good. And he voiced all this. And now, justice grinds slowly, but it grinds fine, right? And so everything is coming out, and it's coming out perfectly, the timing perfectly, because we have Candace Owens now, absolutely corroborating everything that we have said about Richard's case being connected to the Walmart mass shooting, the intertwining of it, right? Because if you need something to distract from your operations of regime change, meaning tampering with elections, then if you need a mass shooting, a false flag, you can do it. That's their thinking. Our thinking is it's totally criminal. It's totally criminal, and they need to be held accountable. But when you have the Mormon faction, El Paso cartel, within the justice system, within the prosecuting offices, within the law enforcement, you see the problem. You see the problem. So, within our military, which Candace Owens outlined that activity also. And you see that it is very difficult. You see what President Trump is dealing with. And I absolutely, goodness, it is just so epic. And that's why I want to tell those that are involved that they didn't get away with it. They didn't get away with it. They've had years to come clean. The lawsuits are now ready. And it's epic. It's huge. It's bigger than huge. It's going to be it's it's hard to express how epic it is. And it's a miracle that we have been patient for this long, telling every day what's going on, breaking the news every day, what's going on. And now it's time. It's time. So, yeah. But I think Candace Owens hit on something that she didn't even expect. And that is the level of betrayal and this kind of thinking. She really is exposing it. She's exposing her half or her investigation that absolutely corroborates what we have been saying. Okay, so let me make sure I did put some notes out, but I want to play Patsy because I think it's really important to think about what it took to orchestrate and to stage, which we have gotten not only from Julio Cordero before his life was taken, but also from JT, right? Juan Torres, the lead investigator. And our evidence that from the audios of Joe Spencer and from the documents of the Mayellas, right? The Mayella family. And also Patrick Crucius's father being a disciple of John of God and doing business with the disciples of John of God. And I can go on and on with the documents and everything, but I'll let you watch this this video, and I'm sure many of you have watched it, but it is worth watching over and over. So let me put it on.
Patsy, was he just a patsy in the Walmart mass shooting crime? Was it all a setup, fake news, a lie? They said he drove from Allentown to El Paso with the rifle in his hand. Wasn't he living in San Antonio? They said he uploaded a manifesto on 8chan with the racist brand, but he's not a racist. And then the witnesses, they saw the scene of more than one man, one in jeans, a few in black wearing masks, and some with army rifles in the mall. Applaud the media stall. Oh my. They didn't say Patsy couldn't speak until about 6 years old. They didn't say he hit himself, autistic and special ed, we didn't know. They Didn't say his hands were awkward and his motor skills were slow. Patsy, was it all a ruse? Patsy, did they paint the news? With your name in blood and the story spun, were you the fall guy when the deed was done? Patsy, were you just a pawn? Was the truth withdrawn? Zero income, that can't be, doesn't add up. He bought an AK-47 online with no money in his cup. They didn't ask why he had zero income, zero needs for a wealthy boy. Like a child he signed Patsy on the line for millions on the taxpayer's dime. Lawyers went cha-ching, millions and millions for an evil scheme. Patsy, was it all a ruse? Patsy, did they paint the news? With your name in blood and the story spun, were you the fall guy when the deed was done? Patsy, were you just a pawn? Was the truth withdrawn? They didn't show the footage clear of what the camera saw. They didn't mention his El Paso family, how his brother married a Mayela. You know his judge's manager's daughter. Y'all, what the hell is that all about? Who taught him how to aim and fire? Who guided his unsteady hand? A patsy who struggled just to speak, now part of a deadly plan. Was this a dirty political screed, a way to attack Trump's accelerating speed? In a world of cartel, terroristic organizations, was it on that day a diversion to keep accountability away? Did they need a patsy for their plan? Patsy, 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 he surrendered not once but twice. His timing wasn't precise. Police didn't even bag his hands. Patsy, was it all a ruse? Patsy, Patsy, tell me, was it all for the news? They didn't even read his nice rights. Justice for Richard Halliday.
Okay. So, and I want to get back to the CIA and how they orchestrate this kind of event, incident, bloody incident, and also how, in the Iran-Contra, they were caught trafficking. And we know, that this absolutely happens and that they will use crisis actors, right? That they will absolutely have people go on the news and give a false narrative. And I would say Veronica Escobar is one of those. And yesterday, I think it was you, Laura, you said, talk about Veronica Escobar. Yeah, Veronica Escobar, we have so much on her, y'all. We have so much on her that we're at the Soros level. We're at the Soros level. We're at the Rothschilds and the Rockefeller level, and it's just mind-blowing because we started off with Nadal Baim, right? And Nadal Baim is so he is super important to our son's case. And if you don't know who Nadal Baim is, he's a Palestinian arms dealer there in El Paso that has a criminal record for terroristic threats. And he is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, our son's chain of command, right? And has relations with Gustavo Sanchez, that was assigned to our case, right, from the Texas Rangers, and also Manny Chavira, who covered up for those that targeted our son, right? Targeted our son, um, and became the El Paso ISD chief of police without a peacekeeper's license, right? Without the proper license, just, days after the Walmart mass shooting. Um, so, and what was the purpose of the Walmart mass shooting, right? It was absolutely regime change. It was absolutely to tamper with the election. It was 100% a false narrative against President Trump, okay? Because President Trump was not one of them. They wanted Beto O'Rourke in, where they can fly up to the White House and control everything from there. And this group, this Beto O'Rourke group, is what Candace Owens is revealing. And this is why, what's going on right now in Iran, this is a result. This is a defense mechanism. And is it regime change? Yes, it is. And they will tell you it was regime change. And Maduro was regime change. But it was a defense absolutely necessary if Mexico wants to regain its sovereignty, and if the United States wanted to regain its I want to say sovereignty, because we had absolutely lost our sovereignty under Biden and the previous presidencies, absolutely. And President Trump was the one they retaliated against. He was their threat. And they were bringing in these foreigners. Because they were giving them visas. They were absolutely infiltrating. And that was how they were invading. And they were putting their people in place. It was so, with El Mencho, with El Mayo, with El Chapo, with all of these other cartels, they have been singing. And that's how they got El Mencho, through a from what I've read, it was through a honey trap, a female. And then they got the ledgers, and then 5 days later, after getting all those documents and ledgers, there was the defensive actions in Iran, because when you think of the level of infiltration, and I can tell you right now, just in El Paso, the level of infiltration in Texas. And Texas has, $7 trillion GDP, over $7 trillion GDP, I think it is. Is it? I think maybe I'm exaggerating, because I looked it up not too long ago. What's the GDP of Texas? It's huge. And if we lose Texas, we've lost our country. And it will just be absolutely nonstop trafficking, exploitation, transhumanism, the most perverted policies out there, because that's how they operate. They operate in perversion, okay, outside of the law of God, because they are external. They're not internal. They're outside. And so, this is where we're at. It's a very difficult place. And we are at a very good place in our son's case, because our lawsuits are going to reveal a lot. They're so epic, y'all. They are so epic, and the list of names is amazing. How many it took to carry this out. It is that's really our message today, and I'm still processing. And I almost forgot to tell you that Kristi Noem, she came out and testified about the children that were trafficked under Biden, and that they were paying people to traffic. And we've been talking about the emergency intake center. And the emergency intake center, the FitFam El Paso, I guess you call him the manager back then. Okay. Now people have been tagging FitFam El Paso. We own the rights to FitFam El Paso. We bought it to that name and to, that LLC. That was Jules Tuganon Chan and his brother. They were featured in the city magazine as anonymous by Rafael Arellano Caron's wife. She's part of the city magazine. And I don't know if she did that story. I have to look. But she's part of city magazine. And, Jules Tuganon Chan was overseeing, was there at the Walmart mass shooting, and also over the emergency intake center. He had a big part to play in that. And that emergency intake center, 500,000, half a million children traffic through there. From March of 2021 through September of 2023. And there was other camps before then, but it went absolutely turbo force. Sorry. It went turbo force when Biden got into office. And now that President Trump is in office, all those spigots of USAID, the cartels, all the spigots have been turned off. The oil, the trafficking, is it still going on? Is there drips, right? Absolutely. There is, to do what he's done in the situation that he's in, being surrounded by compromised official poison pawns, being surrounded by poison pawns. And I'm not saying that he is not willing and dealing. I think he is. He is the art of the deal, right? And I'll take him any day over Kamala and Biden and Tampon Tim. Is that what they call Wolves? Tampon Tim. I'll take him over them any day. And So we really need to drive the actions. And that's why you're sharing. That's why I'm coming on. That's why Candace is doing what she's doing. And they're absolutely, I think they're supporting what she's doing. I think they are. Because I remember 2020, they were absolutely blocking everybody. They were absolutely attacking, taking people off of their platforms. Yeah. And for her to have these millions and millions of followers, right? Millions. I think, oh gosh, she has millions. And we have, we're being seen by millions also. And this adds pressure. This adds a lot of pressure. It adds a lot of drive to do the right thing. And we have to drive President Trump to do the right thing. We really do, because he's surrounded by poison ponds, really. It's just, and I'm not saying there's some good people in there. There has to be, because look at what has happened. Is just really incredible, the winnings, but there have been losses too. And there has been compromise too. And so we absolutely need to drive to do the right thing. And that's where we need to seek internally to do the right thing. God's will be done and not our own will. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I've said that, our family has said that over and over again, because that's what you have to say to engage in this battle. You just absolutely have to put, everything in God's hands and just keep going. Do the right thing, do the right thing, do the right thing. And, you never know what's going to come the next day. But you have to have the faith that God knows, right? So, and I'm going to tell you right now that we know that this is the time for the lawsuits. And we've been asked that by so many people. When are you going to file? When are you going to file? Right? And now we're telling you. Now is the time. And it's going to be absolutely epic. So I just want to thank everyone for your support. And through this, we ask you to please share. And I want to say thank you to Laura for putting this in Spanish. That is just the most great thing. And I know she has her own battles, right? She has her own battles. And her battle intersects with our battle, intersects with Candace Owens, what she's doing, and so many others. So we all each have to work very hard in the place that God puts us, and then it's all going to grind fine. Justice grinds slow, but it grinds fine, and it's from the people that take the stand. That absolutely. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Jenny, for coming on. Fight. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is just all of it's being revealed right now. These, she was saying 13 evil families. Yeah, and that's why this all connected, right? The whole Fort Huachuca with Fort Bliss, the whole everything that's happening in Arizona and also in Nevada is connected with El Paso. It's all connected. It's just all connected, and so this is going to be epic. It really is. So, yeah. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. the Mormon faction. That's what I was saying. The Mormon faction, the El Paso cartel, the Mormon faction. And it is in alliance with the Mexican cartels. And it's very connected, very connected. It's not just in El Paso. Okay, it has long tentacles. So, especially into Mexico. So, thank you so much. And I will be back